banana and vanilla in the woods, but no banana tree for miles. That fruit made my grandfather weep, and the industry paid millions to make sure you never taste it. The smell hit me first, like a ripe banana left in a sun warmed barn, but sweeter, with a thread of honey and a ghost of vanilla. Then the taste, soft custard melting on the tongue, apple bright and pear smooth, with a finish that made me close my eyes and remember something I'd never eaten before. That was the moment I knew the English had robbed us of something precious. My name is Jeremiah Byler, and for 42 years, I've worked with my hands. I've learned from my father and his father before him that the old ways hold answers the modern world has forgotten. The fruit I'm about to show you isn't in any grocery store, and it hasn't been in a nursery catalog since my grandfather's time. But I remember it. So do a handful of old order families who still slip into the woods come September. My grandfather used to tell me stories about the pawpaw patches that stretched for miles along the river bottoms when he was a boy. He said the fruit was so abundant that families would gather by the wagon load and children would come home with their faces smeared yellow and their bellies full. He wept the last time he found a patch. It had been bulldozed for a housing development, and he knew then that something sacred was being lost forever. That memory stays with me every time I walk into the woods, and it's why I'm sharing this with you today. The fruit I'm talking about once fed this continent from the Atlantic to the Mississippi. It's native, it's disease resistant, it produces fruit without spraying a single drop of poison, and it tastes like apple pie filling and honeycomb all at once. You've never seen it in a supermarket, and you've probably never heard its name because the commercial fruit industry spent the last 100 years deliberately erasing it. They couldn't ship it, they couldn't shelf it for 2 weeks, and they sure couldn't patent it. So they buried it. They called it too soft, too perishable, too wild, and they fed you a red delicious that tastes like cardboard instead. If you dig into the agricultural archives from the 1920s, you'll find that the USDA actively discouraged farmers from planting pawpaw orchards. They pushed for apples, peaches, and citrus instead, crops that could be standardized, refrigerated, and shipped across the country without bruising. The pawpaw didn't fit that model, so they called it a minor fruit and redirected research funding elsewhere. That wasn't a neutral decision, it was a calculated move to reshape American agriculture into something industrial, predictable, and profitable. And it worked. Within a generation, the pawpaw went from a backyard staple to a forgotten curiosity. Why did we stop growing it? Two reasons, plain and simple. First, the fruit ripens to a custard soft texture, bruises if you look at it wrong, and it has a shelf life of about 3 days after picking. That's a nightmare for a supply chain built on refrigerated trucks and warehouse bins. Second, it doesn't cross pollinate neatly into uniform clones. Every tree is slightly different, so you can't plant a million identical saplings and expect the same fruit. Big agriculture hates variety. They want predictability, they want firm skin, and they want fruit that hangs on the tree for weeks while they organize harvest. This wild fruit gives you maybe 3 perfect days in late summer and then it's gone. That's not a defect. That's nature's way of telling you to pay attention, to be present, to eat seasonally. But the industry turned that gift into a liability. Now, let me show you how to find it. Harvest it and use it, just like my father taught me and his father before him. What you're looking for is the pawpaw, Asimina triloba, the largest edible fruit native to North America. It grows in rich, damp bottomlands, along creek banks, and in the understory of hardwood forests from the Gulf up to the Great Lakes. Late August through October, depending on your zone. The fruit turns from green to a yellowish green, then to a brownish blotched color, and it softens like a peach. The best sign? The smell, a sweet tropical fragrance that carries on a still morning. If you smell banana vanilla in the woods, you're close. I've found that the most reliable patches are always near water, creeks, rivers, or even drainage ditches that stay damp through the summer. The trees love that moisture, and they'll send out root suckers in every direction, creating dense thickets that can be hard to navigate but yield the best fruit. When you find a patch, take a moment to just stand there and breathe. The fragrance is unlike anything else, like walking into a bakery hidden in the forest. For this, you'll need a cloth sack or a basket lined with leaves. Costs you nothing. A long pole or a hook stick to pull down high branches. You can cut one from a sapling, free. A pocket knife? Maybe $5 if you don't already own one. A few sheets of newspaper for wrapping, just a few cents. A clean glass jar with a lid for making pulp. An old pickle jar works perfectly. And sugar, lemon juice, and a pinch of salt for preserving, which will run you about $1.50 total. First, find the trees. Pawpaws grow in clusters. They spread by root suckers. So a single patch might be a dozen trees. Look for large, drooping leaves that resemble a magnolia with a tropical feel. The bark is smooth and grayish, with wart-like bumps. Next, check ripeness. Gently squeeze a fruit that's hung low enough to reach. If it yields to light pressure and the skin starts to show brown spots, it's ready. Unripe fruit is astringent and bitter. Wait until it's almost too soft to hold. When you harvest, don't yank. Cup the fruit in your palm and twist it gently. It should snap off cleanly from the stem. If it comes away with no resistance, it's at peak. Place each one in your basket with a layer of leaves between them because they bruise like overripe avocados. Bring them home and let them finish. If you picked slightly firm, lay them out on newspaper in a cool, dark spot for 2 to 3 days, turning them once a day until they're fragrant and soft to the touch. I like to use a pantry or a basement corner where the temperature stays steady, not too warm, not too cold. And I always check them at the same time each day, just before supper, so I can track their progress, then process them within 24 hours. Peel the skin off, it comes away easily, and scoop out the large brown seeds, which are toxic, so don't eat them. You'll be left with a custard yellow flesh. Mash that with a fork, add a tablespoon of lemon juice, and a half cup of sugar per quart of pulp, plus a pinch of salt, and you have a ready-to-use base for pies, ice cream, breads, or just eating with a spoon. To preserve for winter, pack the sweetened pulp into jars, leave an inch of headroom, and freeze. It keeps for 8 months. Or you can dry it into fruit leather. Spread the pulp thinly on a baking sheet, lined with parchment. Set your oven to its lowest setting, about 170 degrees Fahrenheit. Prop the door open and dry for 6 to 8 hours. You'll have chewy strips that taste like summer in January. Now here's a trick the old timers used that I've never seen in any modern cookbook. Pawpaw seed tea. Roast the dried seeds lightly in a cast iron skillet until they smell nutty. Then crush them and steep a tablespoon in a cup of boiling water for 10 minutes. Strain and drink it cold. It has a faintly bitter, earthy flavor, and it settles an upset stomach better than any pink bismuth. More importantly, the crushed seeds, when sprinkled around garden beds, repel squash bugs and cucumber beetles without a single chemical. The industry would rather sell you neem oil and pyrethrins, but those seeds are free and they work. Let's talk numbers. A single pawpaw tree, left to itself, will produce 20 to 40 pounds of fruit each year, without fertilizer, without irrigation, without any spray. That's 20 to 40 pounds of organic nutrient, densey fruit that costs you nothing but a walk in the woods. Compare that to the $4.99 you pay for a pint of supermarket blueberries shipped from South America, or the $3.99 per pound for apples that have been stored in controlled atmosphere warehouses for 11 months before you bite into that mealy disappointment. The commercial fruit industry has convinced you that fruit must be perfect, round, glossy, and blemish free so they can charge you a premium for something that's been bred for trucking, not for taste. Meanwhile, this forgotten fruit sits on the forest floor, rotting every autumn because nobody taught you to look for it. That's not an accident. That's the design. They profit from your ignorance, and they've been doing it for a century. Think about what that means for your family's grocery budget. If you plant just 3 pawpaw trees, you're looking at 60 to 120 pounds of free organic fruit every year, enough to fill your freezer, stock your pantry with fruit leather, and share with neighbors. That's hundreds of dollars you're not spending at the supermarket, and it's food that doesn't require petroleum-based fertilizers, chemical sprays, or long-haul trucking. It's food that comes from your own land, your own hands, your own patience. This weekend, I want you to do 3 simple things. 1, look up your local native fruit society. Many states have pawpaw groups, and find out if there's a public patch near you. If not, order a couple of bare root pawpaw saplings from a reputable native nursery. They run about $15 each, cheaper than a single supermarket grocery trip. Plant them in partial shade, enrich soil, and keep the ground moist. They'll fruit in 3 to 4 years. 2, take a walk along a creek or riverbank near you. Look for the broad, drooping leaves. Bring a basket and a friend, and make it a foraging expedition. Mark the spot on your phone. That tree will produce every year, and you can return with your children. 3, make 1 batch of pawpaw pulp this week. Even if you have to buy a few fruits from a local farmer's market, some Amish and Mennonite stands carry them in season. Freeze that pulp, and on the first cold day of winter, pull it out and bake a pawpaw pie. Invite your neighbors and tell them the story, because passing on this knowledge is how we fight back against the erasure. Next time, I'll show you how to graft a pawpaw branch onto a hardy rootstock so you can have your own mini orchard in a suburban backyard. No acreage required, but for now, I want to hear from you. Have you ever tasted a pawpaw? Did you stumble across one in the woods, or did an old timer introduce you? Drop your story in the comments. I read everyone, and I'll answer your questions about growing and harvesting. My name is Jeremiah Byler, and I'll see you in the next one.